Did you know there was a day when the world seemed to hold its breath, when even heaven appeared silent and hope lay hidden behind a sealed tomb, as if everything had come to an unexpected and sorrowful end? Between the sorrow of the cross and the glory of the resurrection, something unseen was unfolding, a mystery no eye could witness, no voice could explain, yet powerful enough to change the destiny of every human soul, forever. What truly happened in that silence, and why does it still echo in the depths of the human heart today? This is not the end of the story, but the moment before everything changes. This is the story of Holy Saturday. Chapter 1. The moment after Christ's death. When Jesus Christ breathed his last upon the cross, a strange stillness seemed to fall over the world. The cries of the crowd faded. The earth itself seemed to hold its breath, and an unseen silence settled deep within human history. It was not merely the quiet after suffering, but a profound emptiness, as if creation itself mourned the passing of its Lord in that sacred hour. Gently, with reverence and sorrow, his body was taken down from the cross. Those who loved him wrapped him in linen cloths, their hands trembling with grief and devotion. They laid him in a new tomb cut from rock, a place untouched by death until that moment. It was a quiet act of love, performed in haste, yet filled with a tenderness that words could scarcely express. Then, a great stone was rolled across the entrance of the tomb, sealing it completely. Its weight spoke of finality, of something closed and finished. To all who witnessed it, the stone seemed to declare that hope itself had been buried. The one who had promised life now lay hidden behind cold rock, and no human strength could move what had been set in place. The chief priests, still uneasy even after his death, went to secure the tomb. They feared that his disciples might come and take the body, claiming a resurrection that had not yet been seen. Guards were posted, watchful and alert, turning a place of burial into a place of vigilance. Even in death, Jesus was surrounded by tension, suspicion, and the lingering fear of his power. Meanwhile, Jerusalem itself felt different. The city, that had been filled with pilgrims for the Passover, now carried a heavy and unspoken weight. The streets were quieter, conversations more subdued, as if everyone sensed that something greater than they understood had taken place. Beneath the ordinary rhythm of life, a mystery lingered, waiting to be revealed in time. Those who had once placed their hopes in him now struggled to understand what had happened. They had believed he was the Messiah, the one who would restore all things. Now, faced with his death, they felt confusion and sorrow mingled together. Their dreams seemed shattered, their expectations undone, and their hearts burdened with a grief they could not yet reconcile with faith. Thus began the Sabbath, not with celebration, but with silence. No great sign appeared, no voice broke through the stillness. Instead, a quiet covered everything, deep and enduring. Yet within that silence, something unseen was already unfolding. What seemed like an ending was, in truth, the hidden beginning of a victory that would soon transform the world forever. Chapter 2. The Tomb and the Reality of Christ's Death. The Church firmly proclaims that Jesus Christ truly died upon the cross. His death was not symbolic, nor an illusion, nor a passing shadow. It was real, complete, and human. In this truth, the mystery of salvation begins to unfold, for only by truly entering death could he transform it from within and open the path that leads beyond it for all humanity. His body now lay still in the tomb, without movement or breath, sharing fully in the condition of every human being who has ever died. There was no sign of divine power, no visible glory, only the quiet reality of a lifeless body. In this profound stillness, Christ embraced the full weight of human mortality, entering even the silence that follows the last heartbeat. The tomb itself became a powerful sign, speaking without words about the fragility of human life. Carved from cold stone, it held within it the one who had once spoken life into the world. It reminded all who would reflect upon it that every earthly existence, no matter how great, must one day face the limits of death and the mystery that lies beyond. The presence of Christ's body in the tomb revealed that he had gone to the very depths of suffering. He did not remain distant from human pain, but entered it completely, holding nothing back. From betrayal to agony, from abandonment to death, he accepted it all. In the stillness of the tomb, the fullness of his sacrifice stood silently, yet more eloquently than any words could express. Now there were no miracles to witness, no teachings to follow, no crowds gathered around him. The voice that had calmed storms and raised the dead was silent. The hands that had healed were motionless. Everything that once seemed powerful and alive appeared to have ended. The world was left with only the quiet, unchanging presence of death, a silence that invited deep reflection and reverence. Yet this death was not a defeat, nor the triumph of darkness. Hidden within it was the unfolding of God's plan of salvation, a mystery too deep for human eyes to perceive in that moment. What appeared as loss was in truth an offering, freely given. Through this surrender, Christ entered the deepest darkness, preparing to bring light where it had never reached before. Therefore, the tomb was not the end of the story, but a threshold. Behind the sealed stone, something greater than human understanding was already taking shape. The silence was not empty, but full of promise. What seemed final was only the beginning of a transformation that would soon be revealed, when death itself would be overcome and life would rise in glory. Chapter 3. The Mystery of the Descent to the Dead. According to the faith of the Church, after his death, Jesus Christ descended to the realm of the dead. This mystery, often professed in the Creed, reveals that his saving mission did not pause at the tomb. Even in death, he continued his work, entering the hidden depths where generations had waited, bringing with him the presence of the Savior they had long hoped for. This place, often called the abode of the dead or the bosom of Abraham, was not a place of punishment like hell as understood in its final sense. Rather, it was a state of waiting, a quiet longing for redemption. The souls there lived in hope, though the fullness of salvation had not yet been opened to them, awaiting the coming of the promised Messiah. Into this silence, Christ came not as a prisoner, but as a victor. He entered bearing the good news, the fulfillment of every promise God had made. To the righteous who had lived in faith, Abraham, Moses, the prophets, he revealed that the long night was ending. The one they had trusted without seeing now stood before them, bringing light into their waiting. His presence broke the ancient separation between humanity and God. Since the fall, heaven had remained closed, and even the just could not yet enter into the fullness of divine life. But now, through Christ, that barrier was overcome. He did not abandon those who had come before him, but reached them, drawing them into the communion they had desired for so long. This event is often described as a silent victory, hidden from human eyes yet immense in its power. No crowds witnessed it, no voices proclaimed it on earth at that moment, yet in the depths of death, a transformation was taking place. What had seemed like defeat on the cross was now revealed as the beginning of triumph over the dominion of death. The power of death itself was broken from within. By entering into death freely and without sin, Christ shattered its hold. Death could no longer claim ultimate authority over humanity. Its gates, once closed, were opened. What had enslaved generations was now overcome, not by force from the outside, but by divine life, entering and transforming it from within. Through this mystery, salvation was extended to all, reaching beyond time and history. Christ's saving work was not limited to those who lived after him, but embraced all who had gone before in faith. In this way, the redemption he accomplished became universal, touching every age, every soul open to God, and revealing the fullness of his mercy. Chapter 4. The great silence in Revelation. The Gospels, so rich with words and deeds, offer almost nothing about this day. There are no recorded actions, no teachings, no encounters to follow. After the intensity of the Passion, the narrative suddenly becomes still. This absence is not accidental. It draws us into a different kind of understanding, where God speaks not through events, but through the quiet space that remains. There are no voices to be heard, no miracles to witness, no crowds gathering in wonder. The one who spoke with authority is silent. The hands that healed and blessed now rest in stillness. Everything that once seemed full of movement has come to a pause. It is a silence that can feel unsettling, even heavy, as if the world itself is waiting without knowing what will come next. Yet this silence is not the absence of God. It is another way in which God is present, hidden yet real. Just as a seed grows in the darkness of the earth, unseen and unnoticed, so too the work of salvation continues beneath the surface. What appears empty is, in truth, filled with a divine presence that does not need to be seen to be real. This moment stands between promise and fulfillment. Everything that had been spoken by Christ still holds its meaning, yet nothing has visibly changed. The tension of waiting becomes part of the mystery. It is the space where faith is stretched, where hope must endure without proof, trusting that what has been promised will indeed come to pass in its appointed time. In this silence, humanity is gently invited into contemplation. There is nothing to grasp, nothing to control, nothing to explain away. Instead, there is an invitation to remain, to listen with the heart, and to be still before the mystery of God. It is here, in quiet surrender, that a deeper understanding begins to take root within the soul. Silence also purifies faith. When there are no signs or consolations, belief is no longer based on what is seen or felt. It becomes a choice, a trust that goes beyond immediate experience. In this way, faith is refined, freed from easy expectations, and strengthened in its deepest foundation, a relationship with God that endures even in darkness. And so, within this great silence, the mystery of salvation continues to unfold. Though hidden from human sight, God is at work in ways more profound than before. What seems like stillness is actually movement at its deepest level. In the quiet of this day, the foundation is being laid for the joy that will soon break forth in the light of the resurrection. Chapter 5. The Crisis of Faith among the Disciples. After the death of Jesus Christ, the disciples were overwhelmed by a deep and painful shock. Everything had happened so quickly, so violently, that their hearts could hardly grasp it. The one they had followed, trusted, and loved was gone. In his absence, confusion filled their minds, and sorrow settled heavily upon them, leaving them disoriented and uncertain about everything they once believed. They struggled to understand how the promises they had heard could possibly remain true. Jesus had spoken of rising again, of life beyond death, yet all they could see was the reality of the tomb. The words they once held on to now seemed distant and unclear. Their hope, once so alive, was overshadowed by the painful evidence of loss standing before them. Fear began to take hold of their hearts. They withdrew from the world, hiding behind closed doors, afraid that what had happened to their master might soon happen to them. The streets that once welcomed them now felt dangerous. Silence replaced their boldness, and caution replaced their courage, as they tried to protect themselves from a threat they did not fully understand. The faith that had once burned brightly within them was now shaken. They had witnessed miracles, heard teachings, and seen signs of divine power, yet this moment tested everything. Doubt crept in quietly, not as a denial, but as a struggle to reconcile what they knew with what they now faced. Their belief had not disappeared, but it had become fragile and uncertain. In that silence, it may have seemed to them that God had become distant, The voice that had guided them was no longer heard, and the presence they relied upon felt absent. It was as if heaven itself had grown quiet. In their grief, they faced the painful feeling of abandonment, a question that echoes in every human heart during times of suffering. This experience is not unique to them alone. Many believers throughout history have known this dark night of faith, when God seems silent and hidden. It is a moment when faith is no longer sustained by visible signs, but must endure through trust alone. In such times, the soul learns to seek God beyond feelings, holding on even when understanding fades. Yet this crisis was not the end of their faith, but a necessary passage. Through confusion and fear, something deeper was being formed within them. Their faith, once dependent on what they could see, was being prepared to grow into something stronger and more enduring. In time, this fragile trust would be transformed into a steadfast conviction that nothing could shake. Chapter 6. Mary, the Church in Hope. In the deep sorrow of that silent day, Virgin Mary remained standing in faith. She had witnessed the suffering and death of her Son, a pain beyond all words, yet she did not turn away. While others were shaken and scattered, Mary endured in quiet strength. Her grief was real and profound, but it did not extinguish the light of trust that still burned within her heart. Mary had no visible sign to hold on to. The tomb was sealed, the silence complete, and no miracle had yet appeared. Everything around her spoke of loss, yet she continued to believe in the promises of God. Her faith did not depend on what she could see or understand, but on the word that had once been spoken to her and that she carried faithfully within her soul. For this reason, Christian tradition often remembers her on this day as Our Lady of Solitude. She stands alone in a unique way, sharing in the mystery of her Son's death more deeply than anyone else. Her solitude is not emptiness, but a sacred space where love remains steadfast. In her quiet waiting, she embodies a hope that refuses to disappear, even when surrounded by darkness. Mary's faith was not rooted in passing emotions, but in the enduring promise of God. Feelings may have shifted with sorrow, but her trust did not waver. She believed that what God had begun would be fulfilled, even though she could not yet see how. In this, she shows a faith that goes beyond human understanding, anchored not in circumstances, but in the faithfulness of God Himself. In her, the Church finds its image. Mary represents the believing community that waits in hope during times of uncertainty. Just as she remained faithful in silence, so too the Church is called to remain steadfast when God seems hidden. Her example teaches that waiting is not passive, but filled with trust, a quiet openness to the work God continues to accomplish. Though she speaks no recorded words on this day, her presence is deeply felt. In the midst of confusion and fear, her quiet strength becomes a source of support. She does not draw attention to herself, but gently sustains the faith of those around her. In her silence, she becomes a refuge, reminding others that God has not abandoned them, even when He seems unseen. Through Mary, we learn how to hope when hope feels impossible. She invites us to remain faithful even when there are no answers, no signs, no immediate comfort. Her life teaches that true hope is not based on certainty, but on trust. In the darkness of Holy Saturday, her faith shines as a gentle light, guiding all who seek to believe beyond what they can see. Chapter 7. The Liturgy and Discipline of the Church. On this day, the Church enters a rare and striking silence. No Mass is celebrated during the day. After the solemn liturgies of the previous days, this absence is deeply felt. The faithful gather, yet there is no Eucharistic celebration. This pause is intentional, inviting all to reflect on the mystery of Christ's death and to remain in a spirit of reverent waiting. The altar stands completely bare, without cloth, candles, or adornment. It appears almost abandoned, stripped of all signs of festivity and life. This emptiness is not merely visual, but symbolic. It reflects the reality of the tomb, the stillness of Christ's body, and the profound absence that marks this sacred time. The Church allows this stark simplicity to speak directly to the heart. Within the Church, the atmosphere is one of mourning and quiet reflection. There are no joyful hymns, no festive decorations, only a subdued and contemplative mood. The faithful are drawn into silence, encouraged to meditate on the suffering and death of Christ. It is a time not for outward expression, but for inward reflection, where sorrow and hope begin to meet in a hidden way. The celebration of the sacraments is greatly limited on this day. They are administered only when necessary, especially in situations concerning the salvation of souls, such as for those who are dying. This restraint emphasizes the uniqueness of the day. The Church, in her wisdom, focuses attention not on sacramental activity, but on the mystery already accomplished through Christ's sacrifice. The faithful continue in fasting and prayer, prolonging the discipline begun earlier in the Triduum. This practice is not merely an external act, but a participation in the waiting of the Church. Through fasting, the body joins the soul in longing. Through prayer, the heart remains open to God. Together, these acts express a quiet readiness for what is yet to be revealed. All liturgical activity is directed toward expectation. Even in its stillness, the Church is not inactive, but attentive. The readings, prayers, and silence all point forward, preparing the faithful for the coming celebration. It is a day suspended between sorrow and joy, where the present moment is shaped by what is about to unfold, though it has not yet been fully revealed. In this way, the whole Church seems to hold its breath. There is a sense that something immense is near, yet still hidden. The silence is filled with anticipation, like the stillness before dawn. Though nothing outward appears to change, everything is poised for transformation. Soon, the quiet will break, and the light of the resurrection will shine forth in glory. Chapter 8. Eastern and Western Traditions and Symbols. In the rich traditions of the Christian East, this day is often called the Great Sabbath. It carries a sense of sacred depth, linking it to the original Sabbath when God rested after creation. Now, in a new and greater way, the Church contemplates Christ resting in the tomb. This title invites believers to see Holy Saturday not only as silence, but as a moment filled with divine meaning. Eastern Christians emphasize that Christ rests after completing the work of redemption, just as God rested after the work of creation. This rest is not inactivity, but fulfillment. The long journey of salvation, from promise to sacrifice, has reached a decisive point. In this stillness, the world is being renewed, as the Creator enters His creation to restore it from within through love. At the same time, the East celebrates this day as a hidden victory. While Christ's body lies in the tomb, His soul descends to the realm of the dead, breaking its power. Icons often depict Him lifting Adam and Eve, drawing them into new life. It is a powerful image. Even in death, Christ is active, conquering darkness and opening the way to freedom. In some regions, this day is also called the Saturday of Light. Though the resurrection has not yet been proclaimed, its presence is already near. The darkness is no longer empty, but filled with expectation. Rituals, prayers, and symbols begin to shift subtly toward joy, as if the Church can already sense the light that is about to break through the night. In contrast, the Western tradition places stronger emphasis on silence and mourning. Churches remain stripped, liturgies are restrained, and the faithful are invited to remain in contemplation. The focus is on waiting, on entering into the stillness of the tomb. This approach highlights the human experience of loss and the depth of Christ's death before the joy of resurrection is revealed. Across cultures, various customs have developed to express this mystery. Some communities gather in quiet prayer, others prepare symbols of new life, and still others maintain traditions of remembrance and hope. These differences reflect the richness of the Church's life, showing how one mystery can be expressed in many ways without losing its essential meaning. Yet, despite these diverse expressions, all traditions point toward the same truth. Whether in silence or in symbolic anticipation, the Church contemplates one single mystery, the saving work of Jesus Christ. Beneath every custom and ritual lies the same reality, that through his death and hidden action, the path to new life has been opened for all. Chapter 9. The Easter Vigil and its meaning for today. As night falls, the Church gathers in complete darkness for the Easter Vigil. No lights shine, no candles burn, and the silence of Holy Saturday still lingers. It is a moment filled with expectation, as if the entire world stands on the edge of something new. In this darkness, the faithful remember the night of waiting, when hope seemed hidden, yet not lost. Then, a new fire is kindled outside the church, breaking the stillness with a gentle glow. This flame is not ordinary, but deeply symbolic, representing the new life that Christ brings. From what appeared to be the end, a beginning emerges. The fire speaks of renewal, of warmth returning to a cold world, and of light that no darkness can overcome or extinguish. From this fire, the Paschal candle is lit and carried into the darkened church. As it moves forward, its light slowly spreads. One candle after another being ignited, the darkness begins to recede, not all at once, but gradually, as if teaching that God's light enters patiently into human history. What was once hidden now begins to be revealed, illuminating hearts as well as the space around them. Soon, the ancient hymn of the Exsultet is proclaimed, filling the church with joy. Its words rise like a song of victory, announcing what has been accomplished through Christ. The silence of the tomb gives way to praise, and sorrow begins to turn into hope. In this proclamation, the Church rejoices in the triumph of light over darkness, of life over death. The liturgy then unfolds through a series of readings from sacred scripture, recounting the history of salvation. From creation to the promises of the prophets, each passage reveals how God has been guiding his people. These readings are not merely memories, but a living story that reaches its fulfillment in Christ. They remind the faithful that God's plan has always been unfolding with purpose and love. At this moment, the faithful are invited to renew their baptismal promises. They are called to remember the grace they have received and to choose again the path of faith. Water is blessed, and the Church recalls the gift of new life given through baptism. It is a renewal not only of words, but of identity, as each person reaffirms their place within God's saving work. Finally, the silence of death is broken completely as the joy of the resurrection bursts forth. What was hidden is now revealed. Christ is risen. The darkness has not prevailed, and hope is alive once more. From the stillness of Holy Saturday emerges a new beginning, reminding every believer that God's victory is certain, even when it unfolds in ways we do not yet see.